Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully, you enjoyed our brief introduction. Listen, you are here for Ain't I a Woman 2021. 2020 brought in some curves for us, but we are here in 2021. And guess what? We have a lot planned for you. We are going to celebrate, we're going to educate, we're going to make you aware, but most of all, we're going to bring unity amongst us as women. I am excited. We have a lot planned for you guys. This year's 2021 Ain't Our Woman is about empowered women, empowering women, or empowered women, empower women. Because, I mean, you showed up. So I know that you are powerful women and you empower others. So that's what we're going to do. We have a couple of things planned for you. We are here to increase the awareness of HIV prevention testing. We're here to provide health education, as mentioned. We are here to offer insight into living with powerfully with HIV. As a woman that's been living with HIV for over 10,000, Lord Jesus, 10 years, over 10 years, I will say that I have learned how to live powerfully and I've been able to thrive living with HIV. So we're going to give you some strategies on doing so. Speaking of strategies, we're going to also talk about strategies on how do you disclose? How do you disclose to your family? We're going to also talk about ways that you can actually disclose to your partner. And then we're going to actually throw in a little bit more information about different ways that you can participate in some HIV screenings if you want to know your status, because we should all know our status. But we want to know that, want you to know that we could not do this alone. So we had some help of some of our partners, and we want to give them a shout out at the beginning because, hey, when we start this train, we're going to keep moving and we're going to keep moving. And so we want to first thank cocolife.com. We want to thank Gilead. We also want to thank the PG County Health Department. I want to thank all of our wonderful speakers and platform guests that we have here. And most of all, I want to thank you for showing up. You did not have to take the time to register. And not only did you register, but you decided to commit to showing up to this event. So I will tell you right now, get ready. Look, I'm going to go ahead and show you. Anybody know me, know how I am. Grab your Kleenex, but also put on your flats because we're going to have some fun times in here. But then also, if you got something to write with, whether you take your notes on your phone or you want to jot some things down, make sure you grab all those things because we're going to put them all together. And guess what? While we're doing so, we are empowering one another. So I want to go ahead and turn this over to one of the individuals that's behind Heart to Hand. And we could not do this without Heart to Hand Incorporated in Largo, Maryland. But I want to bring to the stage one of our very own, Deidre Spears Johnson. I would have to say she is the person behind all of this. She's the one that keeps me going. And truth be told, and she doesn't know I'm going to do this, but I will have to say and just share a little brief history of my story. I met Deidre at my first AIDS watch. Actually, it was my second AIDS watch. And she heard me give my little spiel and she said, I got to get you. And I'm thinking, like, what is this woman talking about? And she said, no, I need you at my particular organization. And lo and behold, what Deidre wants, she gets. So I'm going to turn it over to her. And she's one of the reasons why I'm here. And I just want to say publicly, Deidre, I thank you for all that you have done to make us live powerfully with HIV.
Thank you so much, Shantae. It's been my pleasure to work with you all these years and to see you grow, and I'm just so excited. Tonight is an emotional night for me. I'm so excited that this is our third annual Ain't I a Woman event. Ain't I a Woman is a celebration of women throughout our country. It's a celebration of women all over the world, and particularly, it's a celebration of Black women. As Shante said, I am Deidre Spears Johnson. I am the executive director and co-founder of Heart to Hand Incorporated. I want to shout out a couple of my sheroes. I couldn't be here without the women who have empowered me over the years. I want to shout out my grandmother. I always shout out Ruby Johnson and Joyce Spears of Coolidge, Georgia, who showed me and demonstrated service since I was a young girl in the small town of Coolidge, Georgia. Since I can remember, I've always seen them helping people in the community, from feeding people to helping the elderly to helping people fill out application. What I didn't know was that it was setting me up to start Heart to Hand. In addition to my family, I want to celebrate the late Sally Joseph, who was my best friend and co-founder of Heart to Hand. Sally's legacy will live on through the work that we do at Heart to Hand. So many years ago, Sally and I wanted to make a change. We wanted to help our community. We saw Black women being infected and affected by HIV. We saw our community not receiving the services that they needed for HIV medical care. So we started Heart to Hand literally in our kitchen. Our approach was to create a safe place so that Black and brown people could be seen and they could be heard. They could understand that we were their family and that they would also receive medical care. From the beginning, we were family. From the beginning, we're family. Fast forward, Heart to Hand, 20 years later, we serve hundreds of individuals who are HIV positive. We provide HIV medical care, we provide support services, but most importantly, we provide family. Heart to Hand also services thousands of individuals who are at risk for HIV. We are family. I keep saying that because that is the approach that Heart to Hand takes in providing these services. Mary Bowman. Who was Mary Bowman? Mary Bowman was a daughter, a friend, a sister, an advocate. Mary Bowman was a poet, an author. Mary Bowman was a daughter that I claim. I knew Mary for a long time. Mary taught us so many lessons about life. Mary, as you know, was born with HIV. She never let that stop her. A few years before Mary passed away, she came to me and she asked me if we would be able to co-sponsor the Ain't I a Woman event. I am so grateful that we were able to work together and create that platform. She wanted a platform for women, all women, to be on stage, to be able to share their stories, their experiences, and learn from each other. She wanted cisgender women, she wanted transgender women, she wanted all the women from the LGBT community to share our stories and to learn so we can build up our community. Mary, you will be missed, forever missed, but never forgotten. I truly love you forever. COVID-19 pandemic has caused us so many problems in the last year. The things that I miss most about being with my work family and my clients, I miss hearing the laughter in the office. I miss the hugs. I miss the music. I miss us eating together. I miss all of it. But let me just tell you, COVID, the COVID pandemic will not last forever, and we will be together again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deidre, for sharing your heart and also sharing you. We appreciate you. We appreciate this moment. We're just going to keep things going here, and we're going to actually bring uh, to the stage someone that actually is another great big help to us at Heart to Hand. And she brings a lot of excitement. And you'll understand when you hear her name. But I would like to bring to the stage now Miss Joy Petway, and she's going to go into a little bit of our tribute that we have. Welcome, Joy.
Grateful to be here. I am so grateful. I can't believe we're at the third annual already event. I want to just kind of give a tribute to Mary Bowman. In 2013, Mary was gifted a challenge to create a vision that she wanted to make a reality. She could pick any project that she wanted, anything, touch anybody. And the project that she picked was Ain't I a Woman? And at that time, she was grappling with the intersexualities that she had. And one of the biggest ones was why the LGBTQ community, especially same gender loving women, were not having conversations about HIV. And so she knew that 1 in 4 women were impacted by HIV, but yet in this community, it wasn't talked about at all. And so from there, Ain't I a Woman was born. And her desire, her heart, her essence was to create a safe space for conversation, for artists to come together and really talk about what does it mean to be a woman? What are some of the challenges that we all face? She wanted to offer a night where Black and Brown women infected with HIV could come together with pride, where being Black or Brown, gay or straight, cis or trans, immune compromised or not, saved and sanctified or on their own path would be openly welcomed. This night was a celebration of our commonalities of strength and perseverance, our sorrows and our triumphs, where no part of self would be left behind, and that we all could be uplifted, hugged, and complimented on our journey. Now, I know we're all at home, and some of us may not have had a hug in a really long time, but I do want to offer everyone to kind of take their left hand and touch their right shoulder, and take their right hand and touch their left shoulder and squeeze. Because somebody, if we were in person, would give you a hug of a lifetime. And Mary would want to make sure that you would have one of those. In addition, I want to give honor and grace to Mary Bowman's biological mother. She gifted Mary some roses and some thorns. Those roses became her legacy, her purpose. She gifted her a surrogate family and her testimony. She gave her a voice and a booming charisma. Anyone knows Mary would make you smile. She also understood that it came with some thorns, some self-doubt, some fear, some battling with self-worth, constantly grappling with time. Mary always knew, even at 25, that life wasn't going to be long. If you sat with her, she would tell you that. And she wanted to create a space where we can talk about what is real and share in the beauty of all of it. And I am forever thankful for Heart to Hand to continue this legacy as we move over and move on in this. So at this time, we're going to honor her with a poem, a tribute to her mother called Dandelions.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
misunderstood mellow yellow dandelion won't for long last. Let it be known that God gave her the role of the outcast for divine importance. My mother was a dandelion in the midst of roses. Ignorant of her purpose, she uprooted her soul and unknowingly left herself in 1992. My mother died of complications with AIDS, and I was born HIV positive. So a lot of the poetry that I write and a lot of the work that I do in my life is dedicated to promoting awareness and letting people know about AIDS and HIV. And so here's this poem. It's called Dandelions. A dandelion in the midst of rose bushes would stick out like a sore thumb to ignorant souls. But I know the road this dandelion endured. This weed that all gardeners want to destroy is more appreciated by God than any seemingly beautiful bush of roses. Though that mutely misunderstood mellow yellow dandelion won't for long last, let it be known that God gave her the role of the outcast for divine importance. My mother was a dandelion in the midst of roses. Ignorant of her purpose, she uprooted her soul and unknowingly left herself for dead. It has been said that my mother went above the influence, transmuted broken hearts into smiles, all the while dying on the inside. AIDS didn't kill my mother, it put her at rest. Now this songbird whistles in the key of silence, and I, the latter of five, write poems documenting the struggle unknown to my family. The sickness she denied lies in my blood with a lesser value. People speak. I don't know how you can live with knowing nothing but owning the growing dis-ease that your mother for so long fought. Just the thought alone would destroy me, but see, that's the difference between a rose and a dandelion. Roses were created with thorns to warn hands approach her without caution, but dandelions weren't given that option, but they were created by an all-knowing God, and that all-knowing God created dandelions with the strength to withstand ignorance and hatred. Dandelions live in this matrix of life, understanding the price. Roses live like the world was handed. Dandelions have to take the world and won't leave a rose stranded, but my mother died before she got the chance to realize that dandelions are blessings in disguise. She, I dare say, died before her time. That thought lingers in my mind, conflicting with my belief in the divine. My mom raised me in the faith that the day God sweeps you away is the day proclaimed way before the manifestation. But I can't help but experience devastation, knowing nothing about the woman who carried me, toting guns in the defense of my father. It is even harder knowing nothing about her, but knowing the reason the hospital has become my second home is because this dandelion chose to roam with the buffalo. But I seek serenity in the fact that she just didn't know that she, a dandelion, was just as beautiful as a rose, and I will go forth knowing my purpose as a dandelion. This life is worth all the crying and all the dying I have to do just so someone in my shoes can live. I will gladly give myself as the sacrifice if it means that dandelions in the world will become viewed as more than the consequence of sins behind closed doors. You can lay me on my back and present me lifeless to God if it means that dandelions with unseen scars would not be viewed as odd, but as gifts from God to show the world that beauty lies not in the petals of flowers, but in the power of unconditional love and in the strength of the untouched, unhugged, sometimes unloved, but most important of all, unbudged dandelions. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I just once again say thank you for joining us today. Also, I just want to also acknowledge that in Mary Bowman's legacy lives a scholarship, and I'm looking for the information so that I can gift it its proper due. But for those who know Mary, Mary believed in not just gifting a little money. Her last run of shows, she wanted to make sure she paid every artist for all of the work that they did. And in honor of the work, in honor of her legacy, Vive have come together and gifted the Mary Bowman Arts and Activism Award, where they present $5,000 to intended support for one young activist each year that exemplifies Mary's passion for the arts. Below, you'll see a link so that you can click on that. If you know a young person who would give everything, she dedicated her entire life. When gifted an opportunity to do poetry or to go and do a retreat or make money doing anything else, she would quit every job for any show, whether she was getting paid for it or not, in an effort to ensure that women knew that they were loved and they were cared for and they were never forgotten. And so if you know of a young person, please let them know that there are people who have led really big shoes that they will ensure that that their work and efforts are supported. So thank you for everyone who gave and loved on Mary. She knew it, and she knew it very well. To all the surrogate mothers, sister friends, cousins, and them, thank you.
Thank you, Joy, for sharing with us and actually taking us through that exercise. Because I will say, during this time of COVID, we miss the hugs, we miss the love, and one thing about my first actually AIDS watch, I was able to experience Mary Bowman giving her Dandelion poem, and it was something that at that particular moment that made me want to do some of the things that I'm doing now. I didn't know who she was, but I had to know her. And so just to know that that type of person has that type of impact on people long after they're gone, that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that we're here to live some type of, to leave a legacy for individuals and for our story to still continue. And so I just want to say thank you again, Joy, for that. And then, like I said, also thank you, Deidre. We have some other guests that I would like to bring on in just a moment. But before I do so, I just want to thank you all for being patient with us for the technical difficulties at the beginning. You guys were so patient. I appreciate that. These things happen. Everybody right now is on the internet. We're trying to figure it out. But I thank you all for just being so patient. I see the comments coming in. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Just a couple of things I want to go back and just circle back through just to make sure that we kind of stay on the same pages. I want to go back and just re-emphasize our mission and goals for this particular event. Once again, 8 Hour Woman, we're here to empower women, of course, but then also to ensure that we increase the awareness of HIV prevention, testing, and treatment. Also, we want to provide health education to all of you all that participate today. And number 3, we want to offer insight into living powerfully. You know, that's that. I love number 3 with HIV. And then number 4, we want to identify strategies for you to disclose to your family as well as to your romantic partners, because we should all be able to have healthy relationships and love. All right. And last, we want to provide client-centered HIV screening to all of you all. So just want to say thank you again for, joining us, and we'll make sure that you get that information. And if there's a piece on there that we missed, and let's say, for instance, you didn't get number 3 or you didn't get number 4, give us that information, because we want to make sure that we follow up with you so you can receive that. So next week, it's going to change the corner or turn the corner just a little bit. And you guys received a couple of the gifts. And before we get to the gifts, we have a couple of people that's going to actually join me. But first, I would like to introduce some of our speakers that's joining us. We have Miss Trina Scott. She will be joining us from Gilead, as well as we have Jatna. She's going to be actually coming aboard as well, and she's from I think it's called Safe Center for University of Maryland with her beautiful self. She started off as a case manager, and they're all going to tell their stories a little bit more, but she went on to help us at the Safe Center. And then we have Miss Kanaya. I get to work with Miss Kanaya Walker quite often. If you go to Heart to Hands Instagram page or either their Facebook, you will see Kanaya. We actually do a couple of presentations together. So we're going to bring them on in just a little bit. But before we do so, let's go ahead and grab your bags. And this a nice little bag. That's a nice little bag. Almost as good as Aldi's. But we have a couple of things in here. So a couple of things I want to share with you all. Go on, look, take a look, pull it all out. So I know before I had mentioned taking some notes. Well, guess what? You got a little pen in there, you got a pad in there. And I say these are the times, and I just want to pause here. I just recently just completed my first book, and I would say it took me almost 10 years. But had I not started writing things down as I went or putting notes in my phone, I would not have had the necessary roadmap to help other women living with HIV. So these are the times when you want to start writing things down. If you went through depression and you found your way out of it, write it down so we can know the steps that's going to help us. If you're dealing with anxiety and you found it, look, if you know how to lose 10 pounds, let me know. So these are all things that you need to do. And so someone asked, what's the name of the book? Well, the name of the book is, actually, I have it right here. It is Undetected, More Than a Status. So as a woman living with HIV or a gentleman living with HIV or anyone living with HIV, we strive to get our viral load to undetectable status. So I have some practical tips in there. I didn't come on here to do that plug. That's not what I'm here for, but someone asked, I thought I would. So I say this, any aspiring authors out there, start jotting things down, putting your notes down. But then also inside of our bag, we got a little compact mirror. We all know how to need to use this. Because, sometimes we get lipstick on our teeth, and sometimes I don't have the right friends around me that tell me, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, if I got lipstick on my teeth, I give you permission. If you don't even know me, tell me. Don't have me out here looking crazy. But we all can use a mirror. And then also we have some other things inside of there. We got our chapstick to keep our lips all moist and stuff. There's a puzzle in there, but then I'm gonna actually bring some of my speakers on, and they're going to talk a little bit more. So right now, I know you saw her just for a moment, but from Gilead, I would like to bring in Miss Trina Scott, and she's going to go a little bit more into our bags.
Thank you, Shantae. Hey, ladies. Hey, friends. Hey, family. So excited to be with you all today. I know you are unveiling your bags, and I know that Gilead has provided some huge grocery bag for you all, or overnight bag, or a little let's keep the bag in the closet type of thing. So I'm really excited to just be here. It's all about empowering women. And I really want you all to understand that although I love bags, I think I am a conference hoarder bag. I have bags in my trunk. I have bags in the front seat. I got bags inside of bags. But I think as we're having this conversation about Ain't I a Woman and empowering one another, it's really important for us to find people in our network and in our circle who will love you enough so that we all can unpack those bags together, right? So I think as you go through it, you have some chapstick. What else we got up in there, y'all? A puzzle. Just some things that you can really use either on a day-to-day. Thank you, Kanaya. We have some puzzles and there's some literature in there in reference to HIV. So use it not only with yourself, but with your loved ones, with your family, and also your support system. Condoms, yes. These are internal condoms that we have. Thank you, Sheena. All right, Shantae, that was the Gilead bag right there for you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was stuck on the various types of condoms.
And I think most of them are lube condoms, internal. I'm not sure if we have any external condoms. Water bottle, yes, a whole lot of goodies up in there. Just make sure that you know how to use what's in that bag, right? That's
yes.
the part. Know how to use what's in the bag.
And if not, just ask someone.
Go ahead.
I said, if not, just ask someone. If you
How about that, right? It's really important in these times that we ask questions, that we call within our network. And if we don't want, there's no such thing as a wrong question, right? I think as women, we have to get aside from that fear of asking questions. This is why we're here today, right? Ain't I a woman? Today is International Women's Day. And so it's really about empowering one another, and especially women of color, right? We're always there for other people, but now we have to begin to center ourselves, because if we're broke down, if we're sick, if we're not healthy and whole, there's no way that we can impact our community in the way that we need to. So I think we're going to have conversations about that a little later. And I don't want to go over the show because I see backstage manager looking at me now. But go back ahead and pass it along to you.
Thank you, Trina. Trina is so sweet. I appreciate that. Look, we got the lube too, you guys. So just in case, and like Trina mentioned, don't be afraid to ask questions. And she said a powerful thing. We're going to talk more about this, but I recently just talked about the difference between making sure you understand the difference between self-care and self-maintenance. And I stole this from someone, but it makes sense. Self-care and self-maintenance, we kind of all put it together. We have self-care Sundays and we think it's the same thing, but it's really not. So self-maintenance is things like, we think that if you go get your hair done, and ladies, we get our nails done, or we get a massage. Well, that's not really self-care. Guess what that is? That's self-maintenance. We should be doing that anyway. We should be wanting our feet to look good. We shouldn't be walking around like that. We should want our hands to look good. We should want to make sure that we do things to relax us. But self-care looks like making sure I check in with my therapist every quarter to make sure my mental stability is in place and my mental wellness is in place. We do it with our cars. We get an oil change every 3,000 miles, but we're so reactive when it comes to our mental wellness. So just make sure that you take care of you. And so on that note, I'm going to turn it over to someone else that's going to help us empower ourselves a little bit more. And I am going to Miss Jatna Gomez, and she's from University of Maryland, and she's with the Safe Center. Like I said, she has a long history. I was going to read her bio, you guys, but look, she started as a case manager, and then she just went on. And so I'm going to let her take it from here. Thank you for joining us, Jatna.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I get to open some goodie gifts, so I'm excited about that. And so the first one I have is this wonderful key holder. So you now in the COVID season, with us wanting to make sure that our hands and everything is safe and clean, so we get to use this wonderful thing right here, so that we don't have to be touching things like the elevator. When you're going around in buildings, in public spaces, you can use this friend right here to touch those buttons for you. I also have this beautiful purse holder, and this is my favorite. So when we were talking about the gifts, this is the one I was the most excited about, because I never know where to put my purse. And so you get to use this little guy wherever you go. Where you can hang it on the side, just hang your purse in there. You don't have to be putting it on the floor. I was born in the Dominican Republic, and my mom always explained to me how much of a bad luck it is to set your purse on the floor. So I just have the pleasure of doing these two wonderful gifts. I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to Miss Trina, who's going to go and show us a little bit more.
Thank you, Jatna. I also wanted to say, someone said, so what is that little silver thing that's in the bag? That's not a vibrator, y'all. It's actually a pill holder. So if you open it up, you can put your Tylenol, your Advil, your prevention medications, and also your treatment medications in those. And it's kind of a secret place. So you can put it in your back pocket, or also put it in your purse. But as I am the community liaison with Gilead Sciences, I'm really excited to just be here for the second year in a row for the Ain't I a Woman Symposium. And I think that as we move forward and hear conversations and have conversations with one another, I want to bring into this space one of my real patients, and her name is Nikki. Nikki's always been an advocate in her community by using her voice and standing up for others. However, she was diagnosed with HIV in the early 2000s when she was an undergrad at an historically Black college and university. And she felt so much stigma and shame that she couldn't speak up for herself. So as we watch this video, I want you kind of to internalize some of the support that you may or may not have. And then how you can actually use your voice to literally change the world. And I think we'll have more conversations around that later on. So here I present to you all, Nikki.
sometimes we don't understand how powerful our voices are, how powerful our stories are. I think, like, what if I never shared? So what happened was, I thought I had the flu. My roommate was taking care of me. I had a friend taking care of me, but they weren't getting sick. We went to the health department. I got tested for everything, and he got to the words, your HIV results. He said, they're positive. I had no community. I didn't know any other woman living with HIV. I knew about men who were living with HIV, and I knew about older women, but nobody my age being diagnosed with HIV. You start telling yourself that you're nasty or you're tainted. I felt like it took my voice. I felt like I didn't have one anymore. That's just not true. It's not true. Sometimes I forget about how hard it was to even say stuff out loud, and how, like, you still have a voice, you just gotta use it. My husband would tell me, I'm gonna support you in whatever you do. I promise I'm gonna support you. He made me say, oh, it's time. There's so many ways that we can cope with our diagnosis, but writing has been the most therapeutic because I can get it out on paper. I'm not my status. I'm not my status. I had a feeling in me like, it has to be more of us. More women that are not talking. It has to be another woman that I can lean on and that can lean on me. I have to share this story because I don't see what I need, so I gotta create it. As you see in the headline, I have HIV. So I have been living for 9 years with this, and I am at the point where I want to remove my mask. It was so freeing because that was the first time I ever shared my story in depth like that. Ladies, thank you for removing your mask by sharing your painful story and living in your truth. You're so welcome. You like that comment? I started getting all these messages, all these friend requests. People were reaching out to me all over the world. I began to share more. I began to open up more. And then it was like I had so much to say. Women, we carry the weight of the world. We have to be mothers. We got to take care of our families. We're expected to be able to uphold whatever's given to us. My daughter is a bonus daughter. I didn't birth her, but she's been in my life since I was 2. So she was 2, not me, Lord. And she literally keeps me going. I would just tell any other mother living with HIV that it's very important that you also make sure you take care of yourself. So speak up. You have support. If you don't, you can create some support.
Luckily, your husband knows about some of this stuff, so you're okay.
Podcasting is great because I'm so much more transparent. It's no camera for me to get pretty for. I can just sit there and flow. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. As people were touched by my story and inspired by my story, I began to share more. My voice is powerful, and the voices of other women are powerful. Our voices could literally change the world. My name is Nikki J, and this is my voice.
So that was Nikki J. I hope you all appreciated her story. It was all about removing her mask, unpacking her baggage, finding love, loving what's inside of her. And as you could see, you know, she had a network of community members as well as her husband who helped her to really bring out that resilience within her story. And I'm really excited to share with you all that tomorrow at 11 a.m., we're going to have a Q&A with Nikki, and she's going to be answering and asking questions in reference to how does she continue to be supported in the South, where does she find her support, What does she say to young people who are just finding out her journey in living with HIV? And then also, sometimes in all of this, we need to talk about sex, right? We need to talk about love. We need to talk about empowering oneself. And so as you see here, we're going to post that in the chat box. And all you have to do is just click on the link and join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. for a Q&A with Nikki. Thank you all so much. I am your community liaison. If you have any questions or comments, I'll put my information in the chat box. Passing it back over to you all.
Thank you again, Trina. I know she just left the stage. And Jatna, thank you for joining us again. And I appreciate you guys just working with us and being so patient. But Jatna, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you so you can dig a little bit deeper. And like I stated, I appreciate your path. You start off as a case manager at the Safe Center, and then now I see that you're actually in charge of the diverse communities as far as like ensuring. Like you're taking the lead in that. I'm sorry. There's a difference in being a part of it, taking the lead. You're taking the lead in that at the Safe Center, where you're actually ensuring that they get education and community trainings and things of that nature. So talk to us more about that.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, so I did indeed start at the Safe Center as a case manager, and through 2020, responding to life, being very proactive and just seeing the need of our brown and Black community, we decided to take an initiative, to take an approach, to take an active role in the county to make sure that there was more diversity, there's more inclusion in the field of human trafficking, which is what I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about. This reminds me a lot of what Trina was saying in terms of unpacking a lot of baggage, because as women, we're taught to carry a lot, privately, everything stays at home, everything is silent, and that's a huge part of what hurts us, right? So human trafficking is one of those things. Human trafficking is something that remains a lot on the back end. It's something that is a secret that is very well kept behind closed doors. And, we at the Safe Center want to create a space, an opportunity for those, for women, men, children, anyone that's living through this, to have a space and a community that will take care of them. So with that, I will need our backstage manager to please amplify that PowerPoint for us. Oh, okay. It's electronic. You have to just work with it, move it on, and just, do your best.
You're doing great.
Let's see. You know what? We're gonna do this because I know this by heart. So we're just gonna. So at the Safe Center, our mission is to provide survivor-centered and trauma-informed services. We focus on the whole person. So we make sure that we do research, advocacy that empowers human trafficking survivors to lead and reclaim their lives. We started through an initiative as the Dream of a Woman 5 years ago this year, received a small grant through the state. And through that, we made it our mission to provide direct services, make sure that we conducted research, and make sure that we were promoting our policy and advocacy on every level for our survivors. I did want to give you guys a little bit of a background on what is human trafficking. And just to put it plainly, human trafficking is the criminal exploitation for profit of women and girls and men and boys for commercial sex and forced labor. Traffickers use force, fraud, and coercion to entrap their victims and to compel them to work in slave-like conditions for the traffickers' enrichment. The state of Maryland has been one of the top 20 states with most reports of human trafficking in the national hotline. It is a source that and a destination that has a lot of factors that make it prone to trafficking. It's based on, the different the different airports that we have around, the populations, the many vulnerable populations that we have, and the fact that we are centrally located with I-95 corridor, I-270 and 70. So where does trafficking take place, right? So we always hear that. I think one of the biggest myths that I always try to dispel when discussing traffic with anyone in the community is that whole white van snatch up, movie taken mentality. To put it plainly, trafficking can happen anywhere, from the nail salon to the bars and the clubs to the nursing homes or that home health aid. It happens in almost every industry that we interact with. And that goes back to what I was mentioning about the fact that it is hidden in plain sight. Who is at risk of trafficking? So something that is very much missing here is that our brown and Black kids are very much at risk of trafficking. We are disproportionately, when it comes to African American and Latino youth, we're disproportionately represented when it comes to the numbers of trafficking. Other factors that put us at risk of trafficking are being chronic runaway or homeless youth, a history of substance abuse, involvement in the child welfare system or juvenile systems, prior sexual trauma or abuse. And a lot of the times, being part of a community like the LGBTQ plus community makes a lot of people at risk for human trafficking. So at the Safe Center, as I mentioned, we try to focus on the person as a whole. We want to make sure that from the moment that our survivors walk in through the door, they're wrapped with a variety of services that meet whatever their need is at the moment. Our survivors are in charge of their journey, and our job is to take that journey with them as much as they would like us to. So in order to do that, we provide a variety of services such as case management, mental health and therapy services, legal services, economic empowerment and crisis intervention. And again, this is in hopes of wrapping our survivors holistically to ensure that they're receiving the different sources of support that may not be as accessible to them in the community at large. So how do we come here with Heart to Hand? Because I'm very excited about our partnership, about our work together. Heart to Hand has a wonderful history with the community. Heart to Hand has been doing the work, has been taking care of the community for so many years, and we're just very excited and delighted to be able to partner with them. We're very humbled. We are working together in terms of, there are two big buckets, education and referrals. We want to make sure that we're doing events like this. We're teaming up, we're reaching our community, we're giving the information, we're letting you know that we're here, what some of the services we offered and how we can support you. We want to make sure that the services, that we complement each other's services. So, at the Safe Center, we are able to offer comprehensive health services, prevention programs, social services, legal services. And Heart to Hand is able to assist us with the reproductive health portion, just helping us wrap our survivors and ensuring that they're receiving everything that they need within their community, which is extremely important. Partnership, doing things hand on hand, as women, as women of color, just making sure that we're supporting each other and that we are, as organizations, we're forming partnerships to better our clients, to better the lives of the people that we work with. Lastly, if you ever, you will find our information will be shared, through a banner. If you ever have the need to reach out to us, if you know of anyone, a lot of the times for our survivors come to us from events like this from the community. Our survivors come to us by having people like yourselves that empower them, that hear, that see a presentation, that heard of a wonderful event by women that are advocating for other women. So I empower you tonight and always to look around you, to make sure you're checking on your brothers and your sisters, to make sure that you're not only focused on your safety and your security, but you're also looking to the person next to you. And as I will steal this line from Trina, do not unpack those baggage alone, right? You have, it's always great to do that with someone else. And I think we are each other's best protection. So this is my time. I am very thankful and humbled to have this opportunity to participate for the first time in this wonderful event. I feel more empowered just by being around these wonderful women. And with that, I will go ahead and hand the mic over to Kanaya Walker from Heart to Hand, who will go ahead and have some wonderful points to talk to us about.
Well, thank you, Jotna, for the introduction. I just want to say good evening to everyone who's tuning in. My name is Kanaya Walker. I'm the lead linkage to care navigator at Heart to Hand. First of all, I want to start off by saying I'm so happy to be included in this conversation. And I want to say happy National Women's Day to all the beautiful women that is watching. You know, I feel like lots of times as trans women of color, I do sometimes feel a little left out of these types of conversations. I feel as if it is very important that we are included in these types of conversations because it can actually bridge the gap between so many things that we don't even understand or could imagine. Also, when I say bridge the gap, I mean bringing us together so that we all can empower each other as women of color. So when we talk about empower, the meaning of empower is to make someone stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their life and claiming their rights. And honestly, we need that in the trans community because sadly in 2020, we lost 44 transgender or non-conforming people fatally shot or killed by other violent means, the majority of which were Black and Latinx transgender women. So I say at least because a lot of times these stories go unreported, misreported, and these murders are getting more brutal every year. But until we come together and empower each other, these things will continue to take place. So another problem that I find when it's trying to bridge the gap between cisgender women and transgender women, and if you're not familiar with cisgender women are females who were born female and identify as female. So, and I just want to let you know that this is never the case. We just want to live our authentic lives and be able to navigate through this world as human beings. And last, I want to discuss how to be an ally for the trans community. There are so many ways to be an ally for the trans community, even though sometimes you may not understand the life that we live, you may not understand, why we want to live the way that we live, but you can always be an ally for the trans community or either the LGBT community. And if you're not familiar with being an ally, to be an ally is to unite oneself with another to promote a common interest. As shown by the definitions above, people who are allies are not only helpers, but also have a common interest with those they desire to help. In alliance, both parties stand to benefit from the bond or the connection that they share. So here are some of the ways that you can be an ally for the trans community. Number one, you can tell if someone is transgender. You cannot tell if someone is transgender by looking. And by me saying that, it's like you may look at a person and they may look a certain way, but you shouldn't take it upon yourself to, just assume what they are or how they identify. So it's always good to ask the question. Number two, don't make assumptions about a transgender person's sexual orientation, because sexual orientation is different from sexual identity. And if you're not familiar with that, sexual identity or gender identity is the way that a person chooses to identify themselves, whether they decide to identify themselves as male, female, woman, man, etc. Sexual orientation is things such as gay, bi, things such as gay, bi, pansexual, those type of things. Number 3, if you don't know what pronouns to use, listen first. That, to me, that is the most important thing that you can actually do, because a lot of times I think people may feel like they may be offensive if they ask someone, what their pronouns are. And this is just as simple as like, you can ask someone, what pronouns do you prefer to be called? And I really don't think that it would actually really offend anybody, but you assuming would definitely offend somebody. Number 4, this is another important one. Never ask the transgender person what their real name is, because, some people haven't had a name change and some has. So you ask them, what is their name? It's as simple as that. Never use their real name, or never ask them what their real name is, because even if they have their name change, you asking them what is their real name, that can actually really offend them. Number 6, this is the most important one to me, is number 6, be careful about confidentiality, disclosure, and outing. That is, like, to me, the most important thing of everything that I've just said, because I feel like a lot of times, like I just talked about the different trans murders and things like that. And I think sometimes people really think that, it's a joke, it's funny, when you see a transgender person out, no matter whether they're passable or non-passable, you just telling someone that, oh, well, this, like, I can hear things such as, oh, this is a man. Or if it's a trans man, you saying this is a woman. They could put somebody in danger and you may not even know it. So once again, you go back to the 44 murders that we had last year. Some of those were caused by things like that. Number 7, respect the terminology a transgender person uses to describe their identity. Next is number 8. Be patient with the person who is questioning or exploring their gender identity. And I think that this plays a big part in when it comes to kids or children. Sometimes, I know that a lot of times people say that, kids don't know, what they want to be at a certain age. They may change their mind when they get older or whatever, but it's for you not to question, help them explore, let them live their lives out, just to see, if that's what they truly want. Number 9, understand there is no right or wrong way to transition, and that it is different for every person. Number 10, don't ask about a transgender person's genitals, surgical status, or sex life, because that is very offensive. And number 11, learn that transgender people are not new. We have been around for ages, from the beginning of time. So we are not new. I think now we have become more popular, but just know that we're not new. So with that being said, in closing, I would like to leave you with a quote by Laverne Cox. I think trans women and trans people in general show everyone that you can define what it means to be a man or a woman on your own terms. A lot of what feminism is about is moving outside of roles and moving outside of expectations of who and what you're supposed to be to live a more authentic life. And also, so even with this quote, this quote can go for this whole event. empower women, because you should never let anyone make you feel like that you're supposed to live a certain way. You should always live be your authentic self at all times. And in closing, I just want to talk about some of the services that Heart to Hand offer. So first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about Heart to Hand. If you're not familiar with Heart to Hand and you're tuning in, Heart to Hand is a 501c3 community-based public health organization, and we're actually located in Largo, Maryland. We provide support services to those living with HIV and AIDS and other sexually transmitted infections. Heart to Hand, we are the leading provider of free services to those living with sexually transmitted infections in the Prince George's County area. So we know that 2020 took a big toll on us. So, a lot of stuff that we do is virtual. A lot of stuff that we do have to be done online. So the first service that I want to talk about is PrEP. PrEP is via Mister. Mister is a website where you can get prescribed to PrEP and you can do everything online. You don't have to come in and get tested. You can provide your test results to us through Mister, and everything is completely done online. So, if you don't feel comfortable with going into a doctor office or, your local public health organization, you can go to Mister and everything can be done online. The next thing I want to talk about is during the pandemic, what we have been doing is we have been mailing out HIV testing kits. And I have one right here. Is the OraQuick HIV rapid testing kit, and we are mailing them out to people living in the DMV area, that's DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia, and we are mailing them out for free. I don't know how many of you guys have been in the store and seen them. I think they're around like $50 or $60. And if you are in the DMV area, we're mailing them out for free. So that is a good catch. Also, the next thing that we're doing is we're offering safe sex kits. I know you saw earlier that Shantae showed you some condoms and lube. So we have safe sex kits that we're mailing out to people that live in the DMV area. Once again, that's DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia. And those safe sex kits, we have silicone-based lube, we have water-based lube, we have flavored condoms, we have insertables, which, some people may know them as female condoms. We have magnums, we have dental dams, we have everything that you need. And just let me go back and talk about PrEP. If you don't know what PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. It's a pill that you would take one a day that will prevent you from getting HIV. But in order to get on PrEP, you must be HIV negative, and you still must be tested regularly. And before you are prescribed PrEP, you have to get tested, of course, to prove, to show that you're HIV negative. So that's a little bit about PrEP if you're not familiar with PrEP. So the next thing I want to talk about is we also at Heart to Hand, we offer psychosocial support groups. And some of our psychosocial support groups, we have a women's group that the person, Shantae, who is, the host, she runs the women's support group. And we also have a men's support group. And we also have a trans support group, which I facilitate. And we have a new group, which is like a youth transitional group for youth who are going from being from youth to adults. And that is a status neutral group. And you will learn different things about, how to manage your finances and just how to navigate through life as an adult. We also offer case management. We have a pharmacy. We have a clinic with a physician. And just to let you know that Heart to Hand is like a one-stop shop. We're the only one in Prince George's County. It's like a one-stop shop. So we have a pharmacy inside of our office. We have a doctor on site. We have a clinic. We offer all of those services. So we're like a one-stop shop. And we also offer sex education. And also now during the pandemic, we are offering PPE, personal protective equipment. So we have things such as hand sanitizers, masks, just all type of things that protect you through the pandemic. So next I want to talk about, so I know that when we first sent out the registration, we gave people a offer to receive an at-home test kit that I just showed you. So if you were one of the ones who requested, an at-home or quick HIV test kit, people who last names are A through I, you can contact Chiquita Lane. Her email address is clane@heartandhandinc.org. Her phone number is listed 240-548-8475. If your last name is J through R, ends in J through R, begins with J through R, you can contact me, Kanaya Walker, Kanaya W at heartandhandinc.org. My phone number is 240-548-7893. And if your last name begins with S through Z, you can contact Jalen Lane. That's Jlane at heartandhandinc.org. And once again, I want to thank you all for having me, letting me be a part of the conversation, and happy National Women's Day to everyone that's watching. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kanaya. And I would just have to say before you go off the screen, hold up backstage operator. Thank you so much because, I see you as my sister. You have been a great supporter to me. And listen, I'm going to tell you this real quick, whether you are a woman that's living with HIV or whether you just want some more information and you're from the trans community, you are in good hands with both Kanaya and myself. Our groups are fun. We're going to educate you. We're going to empower you. I know in the women's support group, right now, we actually have a financial coach coming in because we believe in the holistic approach. And we also deal with emotions such as what does it mean to be abandoned. So, Kanaya, I just wanted again to say thank you so much just for being you. And then also, just, helping me out for a couple of hairstyles. I want to let you know.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. So once again, just to go a little bit further about our support groups, as a woman living with HIV over 10 years, I remember when I first found out a little bit about my story, I was actually married for the second time. And ladies, you guys know that when you are married, that second time around, you want it to work. It doesn't matter what's going on. You really want to prove that this could work. And so when I got my HIV diagnosis, I sat in depression for almost a year. And I was actually living in North Carolina at the time. And during that particular time, there was really not too many resources available for women. And so I remember crying and soaking and really laying prostrate on the floor. And I was praying because I'm a woman of faith. And I said, God, this has to make sense to me. Like, I didn't go through all of that to get here. This has to make sense. And all of a sudden, I kind of pictured or envisioned another woman crying and feeling the same way. And so sometimes we're not strong enough at that particular time to come up out of a situation ourselves. We don't have enough strength, but sometimes we love our sisters and our brothers enough that we will come out and fight for someone else. I'm that one that if you tell me something's going on, I'm going to be one to fight. And I didn't have enough strength for myself, but I had enough strength to pull myself out of it for someone else. And that's when I started breaking the silence and becoming that voice and becoming that advocate. There wasn't a support group that had women in my particular city. And so when I came to the DMV area and I resided and I came back to this area, I was so glad to find a place like Heart to Hand where I saw other women that was living with HIV and we were able to come together and provide each other support. I mean, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. Do we all have different attitudes? Absolutely. Do we all come from different backgrounds? We all see things through different lenses? Absolutely. But one thing about it is pain is pain. And that's the common ground that we came on. My diagnosis, the way I found out was different than someone else's. It didn't matter, but at the end of the day, we're all here together. And so as a result, it's very important that if you are a woman living with HIV, or you know someone that's living with HIV, encourage them to connect to other support groups as well as linkage to care so they can get the support that they need. And so at this time, we're going to actually open up for a couple of questions from you all. And I'm going to actually bring some of my guests on back again. And we're going to go ahead and take on some of you guys' questions, because I know you guys have a lot of questions out there. And if you don't, that means we did a good job of kind of informing you all. But I just wanted to say once again, I'm so grateful for all our speakers that were able to join us, and they have all just given us a little piece of who they are. But, it goes well beyond this. And it's more than just I'm thinking about the dandelion. It's more than just the dandelion. I see roses. I see lilies all on here. And I just want to thank you all for being who you are. So let me see if we have any questions so far. Any questions out there? So one of the questions we have here, and you'll see, how do you navigate getting comfortable disclosing your status to friends and family? And if you guys remember, that was one of our goals that we said that we wanted to talk about in our missions during this particular event. So how do you navigate getting comfortable disclosing your status to friends and family? I'm gonna let anyone take that. Let me see who's going to raise their hand.
I can start it. I'll start the conversation.
Go ahead.
Hey, y'all. My name is Ann Wiseman. I'm the Deputy Director at Heart to Hand, and just really honored to be, like everyone else said, in the presence of all these beautiful women tonight. I think one thing about navigating getting comfortable in disclosing your status is being comfortable, or to your friends and family, is being comfortable disclosing it to yourself. Being comfortable and being able to accept yourself as who you are, and feeling safe to even talk to you. It sounds kind of crazy, but talk to yourself about it. I think that would be the first step, is really just kind of being able to accept it for yourself. And I'm gonna let my colleagues chime in on that.
I think, and also, I think it's important for you to understand the progression of the disease. I think you need to understand what is actually happening to you in real life, and not what you heard on TV, not what they're talking about in the streets. And you need to also be comfortable with the idea of stigma, and that the fact that it is real, like the stigma is real, and be comfortable with what people may say. Like in real life, people may be put off about your diagnosis, and we don't want you to be surprised about that response. And so really even role playing with somebody about what those responses might be, so you're not caught off guard with those responses.
And I just want to jump in again real quick. Absolutely. And, we talk about HIV a lot in our work, but there's, in terms of the stigma surrounds HIV, STIs, or even just discussions about sex in general. We've got to be able to break the stigma, and each of us have a part in that. So whether you're doing the disclosing or you're being disclosed to, we each have a part in that.
Thank you so much, ladies. And I would have to join in on this part. You guys know I was going to go for it. I think this would be a great time for us to talk about CLEAR. If you guys haven't heard, we do have a program, or basically a one-on-one session that you can go through. I am one of the facilitators for that, but we have Kanaya assist with that as well. But CLEAR is Choosing Life Empowerment Action Results. And that particular program is designed not just for individuals living with HIV, but if you are considered at risk. And so right now, living in the society that we live at, pretty much a lot of us can be considered at risk. And so what we do in CLEAR is we talk about goals, but then we also do one-on-one, and we talk about some of the things that Ms. Deidre mentioned as far as stigma. And we talk about disclosure and ways that you can kind of role play with that, and hopefully get you to the point where you're able to either disclose or just decide, hey, man, this is not just for me. And if so, guess what? If you're not ready to disclose, there's enough of us out here that'll be the voice for you. So I wanted to go ahead and put that plug in for you before we go into our next question about CLEAR. So I guess the next question we have is, what does addressing the stigma look like for women today? That's a good one. I think we had another one about testing. I'll make sure I piggyback around to that one too. But what does addressing the stigma look like for women today? Thank you, Miss Jonas. What does addressing the stigma look like for women today? Someone help me with that. Miss Joy, I see you.
Thank you so much for bringing me forth. I would like to add, just in terms of addressing stigma as well as disclosure. When we own our things, like own who we are, own how we move in the world, whatever is a part of our wholeness, people often get in alignment. One of the things, as we talk about disclosing with family, part of that, regardless of what the disclosure is really ensuring that we have our support system in play. This is why it's so important that you're part of the support teams. This is why it's so important that you're part of organizations like Heart to Hand, because on the other end of the disclosure, you want to make sure that you have a group of people who understand where you are and can ensure and can support you on your wellness journey, whatever that might look like. It's often easier when we aren't dependent upon others as we are disclosing, but it is okay in the event that we are, that we have the support systems to kind of address some of the areas in need. And in talking about being a woman, it's so important to be bold. And lastly, just when we're dating, as a woman out here, and especially if you're single, some of the easiest times to disclose is really within that first 24 to 48 hours. Mary Bowman always would say, I want to give you the option to opt in or opt out. And so that is the way that she moved in her truth. And she found over years and years and years that people are a lot more inclined to accept you for what they believe that they understand, or for whatever your truth is. And when time lapse, often it is not what we have to disclose, but the feeling that we've been lied to is what folks are up against. And so those are some of the wisdoms that I've learned over time. And so I just wanted to go ahead and pass those along.
If I may chime in as well, I think, as we are talking about HIV and HIV prevention and treatment, there's not only that stigma that's associated with HIV treatment, but also women who are utilizing pre-exposure prophylaxis, utilizing PrEP. So that really has, become the opportunity to engage our communities. And, this started with women taking birth control pills, how there was a lot of stigma associated with women's sexual freedom and liberation. And I think it's the same thing that's happening now as we look across the prevention continuum with PrEP. And I think also language is so important as we're discussing our sexual health. We say PrEP a lot, but people couldn't tell you what it is. So why don't we just call it, the pill that prevents HIV? The same way that we talk about, treatment as prevention, we're calling that treatment as prevention. We also have, helicopter's going over. We also have the opportunity to talk about a pill that can prevent HIV as well. And, also when we're talking about that disclosure, Maya Angelou has this amazing quote, and she says that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And so that's all about removing that mask, being able to find that support system, being able to disclose to God. And I think regardless of what the context of the story or the issue of the concern is, it's all about how are you making somebody feel in that moment.
Thank you, Trina, for that. Thank you so much for all of you all for taking, going ahead and answering some of those questions. I know we have a couple of more questions, so I want to make sure that we get there. So we have another question from Miss Taylor. So this is directed to you, Kanaya. So people always say they want to be trans ally, but what does that look like in real world or action? Oh yeah, Kanaya, come with this. Come on, girl.
Okay, well, first of all, I feel like that if you do want to be a trans ally, you have to, being an ally, even in the whole LGBTQ community alone, the first thing that you can't be judgmental, because you can't be judgmental and be an ally. So I listed some of the things, that I felt like was important on being an ally. So mm, in the real world, from what I've seen, I see a lot of people that say they are allies, or, you may have, for a prime example, you may have some people who feel like, so with people's families, right? This is an example. You may have a family, like I may have my family. My family may accept me, but then at the same time, they still discriminate against other people that are like me. And then they can tell me, oh, I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about them. So I think those are the kind of things that you have to look for, because that's like real life. But the number one thing is that you can't be judgmental and be an ally.
Can I jump in really quick, Shantae?
Go for it, Deidre. Come on, Deidre.
as an ally, and it's levels to it. It's you really have to dig yourself in to learn and understand. If you don't understand, you're probably gonna judge, if we're being real. And it's just because you don't understand. And if you really want to be an ally, you got to get involved in some kind of way, even if it's volunteering with organizations like Heart to Hand, so that you can be around people that are transgender, so you can understand their journey. Once you understand a person's journey, more than likely you will be less judgmental, because they become more human to you. It's like their life. They get to choose to live their life the way that they see fit. And as long as you don't know them, they're arm's length. You can talk about people. It doesn't matter what it is. So you need to get to know someone from that community for sure.
And if I could just add my little piece, I think all of that, and I think one of the most important things about being a trans ally and being an ally just in general means that you stand up even when the person that you're being an ally for isn't there. That means that you are their spokesperson, you're their ally, even when they're not there standing next to you. You have to proceed as if they are.
And you can't be fake. Excuse me.
Miss Deidre, we're gonna have to bring you back on for that. Then come on.
You just can't be fake. I think that, not just for the trans community and anything that we do, like Ann just said, you got to speak up. Like you can't, I remember when we first started Heart to Hand, I found myself always speaking up because people were in the room talking about HIV, but they were not talking about it in a real way. You got to be honest and authentic in whatever you're speaking about. And you got to call people out. You got to call people out and say, excuse me, what did you say? You got to be real.
So I love what Miss Deidre said. You got to call people out, and that reminds me of a training that we did, and we were calling people out in our training that we did, and we learned how to do that, because there's ways that you can effectively call people out, and you don't have to be rude, but there's a way that you can kind of bring awareness, or because sometimes we are unaware of what we're unaware of. You don't know unless you know. So we had another question. So this is a good one. Can we talk about how prevalent HIV is in our community, especially for women of color? I think that's a really good question. Anyone want to take that? Let me see if I see any hands on that. Who can give me some statistics? Or in general, let's break it down to PG County. Does anyone want to take that?
So I'll jump in.
All right.
So one of the things to remember is that, Black and brown people in general are disproportionately impacted by HIV. And that's no different in Prince George's County. And women tend to be disproportionately affected and impacted as well. So I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but in Prince George's County and even in suburban Maryland, so in Montgomery County and in Prince George's County, women, it's broken down into transmission types. I'm going to call it transmission types for lack of a better word. Basically, women are just as impacted as men in the county. Heterosexual transmission is up there. It has always run neck and neck with men who have sex with men. And so it's just something, you know, we are impacted, and you've heard it again and again in the stories, in Nikki's story, in Shantae's story, that women feel alone. Particularly Black women can feel very, very alone. And like, I'm the only one, because we don't talk about it. We don't talk about the impacts of that on Black women in our county. And so that's, you know, once again, why it's so important that if you know someone that's living with HIV, or if you are living with HIV, just know that you are not alone.
I think also, and one of the main things is that there's so many people in communities of color that don't know their status. So if you say there are 8,000 people in Prince George's County who are infected, there are about 1,000 of those people who don't know their status. And so what that means is that we have to find those people by testing, having testing events. The issue now with HIV is that we have to test more people to identify one HIV positive person. And so back in the day, we used to do community outreach events where we would go to a community where the prevalence was high, and we would test individuals, and we would probably find somebody in the community. But because we've done such a good job with screening, that it's like finding a needle in a haystack. And so what we really promote at Heart to Hand and the Centers for Disease Control is out testing. So we really want testing to be available, HIV testing to be available at every doctor's office, at hospitals when you go to the emergency room, without you asking. So for instance, if you go to your doctor, do they tell you they're going to check your blood pressure? Do they tell you they're going to check your cholesterol? We want to normalize HIV testing as a part of our normal health care, so that we can identify those people who don't regularly go and ask for an HIV test. A lot of times when we go for our regular health care, we assume that we are being tested for HIV. In more cases than not, you might be. But if you go for your well woman's visit, you need to ask them to give you an HIV test and an STI test, or you may not be getting it. You may think that you know your status, and because they're not telling you you're HIV positive, that you're not. But maybe you never got tested. We work with veterans that go to the VA, they're not tested. We work with people who go to their annual checkups and they're not tested. And then they find out when they go to the emergency room. Because here in Prince George's County, we have some emergency rooms that are doing opt-out testing. So if you go to the emergency room and you have a heart attack or you have a broken toe, they're offering you the HIV test as a part of your screening. And we're finding people there that would not otherwise be tested. So on that end, we need to find those people that are tested. On the other end, once you identify your HIV test, is positive, then you become a part of the continuum. And as a part of the HIV continuum, we want to get you into a doctor's office. We want to get you on your HIV medication, and we want to get you virally suppressed. But as you go down the continuum, the number goes down. So for instance, if there are 7,300 people who were HIV positive that we knew about in 2017, only about 30% of those people are not virally suppressed. And then the number goes down to the number of people that are on medication. So the viral load, the continuum of care is so important for those HIV positive people. And we want to identify people, we want to get them on medication, we want to keep them on medication and keep them adherent, and we want to get them virally suppressed. But the number from the point we identify those people as being HIV positive to the number that are virally suppressed is significantly different. And so we have to work very hard to get those numbers level. And that's really the work that Heart to Hand does. Sorry for that long answer, but it's complicated, but we can get to it.
I see Kanadia's hand. Come on.
Okay, I just want to give a piece of advice. This being as part of the linkage to care team where we go out and do outreach and testing and things like that. We talked about this the other day on one of our social media lives. I know that throughout this conversation tonight, we talked a lot about stigma. And a lot of times, what we witness when we're out doing outreach is I think that a lot of times the stigma still happens. So people think that it's a gay man's disease, and that is not the case anymore. It's not a gay man's disease. And also, another thing that we've come across out doing outreach is that a lot of people feel like because they've been with the same partner for like all of these years, so they don't feel they need to get tested. And we always try to find a way not to we try to keep it real, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you're never with your partner 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it is still important that you know about your own sexual health and that you take control of your own sexual health. That's it.
I also think, it's just so important to elevate conversations around, as you said, Kanaya, sexual health. What we know is that, from not heterosexual sex, from vaginal sex and anal sex are the primary transmission for women. And I think that, we have to have those conversations. And if we look at where we currently are, we're sitting in Prince George's County, but we also have Montgomery County. We also have DC, and we also have Baltimore. We eat, sleep, play, work, preach in all of those areas. So we really have to be able to come together in some type of unified approach to talk to women across the diaspora, right? It's just not Black and brown women, because when we think about it, women are being impacted by HIV. However, the money doesn't follow women. The money is not following trans women as well. The money is not following where we receive services. So we have to do our own advocacy to really approach it in a different way. Where do we go? We sit around the kitchen table and have our conversations. Maybe we need to start going back to doing that, sitting around the kitchen table, having conversations. The same thing about where do we get our wellness services? Do the people look like us? Are they serving our communities? I'm thinking about like the Black Panther Party movement. I'm thinking about how our faith or churches used to start ways and opportunities for the family to come together. So I think we really have to be able to center that approach once again.
Thank you, Trina, for that. I love the fact that you said that we need to have the conversations. I don't know about you all, but I am enjoying this conversation. I just sent a message not so long ago and said, I'm getting more out of this than some other things I've been to. So I don't know if it's the fact that we're at home and we're just comfortable, but I'm loving the fact that we're having these conversations. So, hey, heart to hand, we may have to continue this, just saying. So I have a question here where someone said, hey, I mentioned the difference between self-care and self-maintenance. How do you practice self-care? Well, I think it's basically depending on what your needs are. Everyone's needs is not the same. What I need as far as, and this goes back to like my background, my childhood, where I'm going, what my goals are. My self-care regimen is different, meaning that if you had a car that's pretty good and reliable, and you trade out your car every 3 to 4 years, you may not need to keep an eye on it as much as that one that may be 10 years old. So some of us have trauma and some things that we just haven't dealt with and we haven't unpacked, as they mentioned before. So you may need a little bit more care. So my care looks like things such as based upon my need. I need to make sure I see my therapist. I need to make sure, because I'm a busy woman, I do stuff for Heart to Hand. I also am an executive for a global financial institution. I'm a rising author. I'm a resilience coach. All these things require me to wear multiple hats. So as a result, guess what Shantae does once a quarter? She goes away. I need to make sure I have vacation time to shut it all down, put my phone on do not disturb. And speaking of do not disturb, that's another way that you can do self-care. Shut it all off. After a certain time, I put my phone 10 p.m. I try to 11 p.m. 10 p.m., 11 p.m. I put it on do not disturb until I wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then it's back on. But it's set automatically. Those are different things that Shantae's needs. You need to do an assessment on yourself to see specifically what your needs are, What have you not received? What does support look like to you? Support looks totally different. And then try to build those things in. It took me a day to build out my self-care regimen. And I'm trying my best to live to it. So you guys got to hold me accountable. Does anybody else want to talk about what they do as far as self-care? Oh yeah, and I shop too on a budget. Anybody else want to help me with their self-care regimen? I see Joy. Joy, thank you. Come on in, Joy. Help me with that.
Self-care. One of the things that is free is going out into nature. We forget how important the sun is, how forest bathing, what does that look like? Is kind of hanging out just in some trees or by some water. Everyone has something different. My self-care definitely looks like climbing a tree, especially if I find one that has low enough hanging branches, but is super helpful. I ashay the going on a vacation of some sort. It can be a staycation where I'm at home and I have themes. Sometimes it also looks like taking self-care baths, putting some intentions in some water and getting into it. And just allowing the day to go. And sometimes my self-care looks like having some hard conversations with some people, writing down the things that are important and saying them so that I can let them go and I can move on. So that's part of my personal self-care. Anyone else?
Now, Joy, you know you can't start that and not have me bring you back. Now, come on back in here with me real quick, Joy. I need to know real quick. You said letting go. I think that's an important piece. Can you talk about how do you let go of things or people real quick? I know that this wasn't a question. This was a Shantae question. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Thank you for asking. Letting go looks like a lot of self-acceptance. Oftentimes I have found, and I found with some of the folks that I work with, is that we are so beholden to the vision of what we thought it should look like, whatever it was, how we thought someone should have responded, how we thought we should have responded. And all of it has happened in the past. There is no going back to any of those things and fixing them. At the very best, we can say, this is who I am, this is my character today, and this is what you can hold me to. But there is no going back to the past. And so a lot of it is self-forgiveness and realizing that if I stay focused on what didn't happen the way I wanted, then it's an increased likelihood that I'm going to produce more of the same in my present future versus altering my future by staying focused on what it is that I want moving forward.
Joy,
I love it. I love it. I
that
love it.
self, you said
Oh, Deidre, come on in,
self-forgiveness.
Deidre.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I had to, oh my God. I mean, just understanding who you are and accepting you who you are and not needing that outside confirmation. For me, that's self-care. I know who I am. You can say what you want to say. It doesn't shake me. Once you can get to that point, that's self-care. Sorry, I had to say that.
Mm.
See how she does, you all? That was great, Deidre. I remember a long time ago you gave me something and you said you're already good enough. If you don't do nothing else, you're already good enough. So we have a couple of more questions. We're coming to the end. I know you guys. I know, sad, but we're coming to the end. I want to make sure we get to these questions. Someone had a question about how do you get started with advocacy. Can someone kind of take that for me? I think Trina may have started or someone may have started before. If someone want to talk about how do we get started with advocacy? How do you start the advocacy process?
I can jump in if no one's
Okay.
gonna. I think you just have to, if you are passionate about a cause, open up the phone book, Google it, call an organization, start your own movement, give out a flyer, give education. All of that is advocacy. Start where you are. When we started Heart to Hand, we had no money. We started literally at our kitchen table. I wrapped my own vehicle with Heart to Hand's logo on it. I mean, so it depends on how deep you want to go. I was all the way in. But literally educating people about your cause is advocacy. calling your government officials, understanding about that issue, raising your hand in a room when you know they're all wrong. Like when you know there's things not being said in the room that they, people that are making decisions about your community that they don't know anything about, you need to raise your hand. Like that's advocacy. It starts basically anywhere you are. If you're passionate about a cause, you need to stand up and be counted.
I will agree with that. It can start very small. This Ain't I a Woman started with me and a group of friends going camping. And everybody was talking about what they wanted to do and all the things we wanted to create. And for 2 years, none of these projects have came into fruition. And so it was like, forget it. We have 3 months, create something. From that, I started Achieving Joy, which is now a full group mental health practice that supports the community at large. Ain't I a Woman came from this. So many other programs and artists have did international tours as a result of the work that we did in 3 months. So it starts small, but if you stick with it, it grows. When you invite someone else to be a part of it, it gets even larger. And so whatever the thought is, get with your closest friends, comrades, and if you hold that vibration and you hold that vision and you continue to talk about it, you're going to bring more and more people in alignment with you. And then you set the world on fire.
And it's progress, not perfection. It does not have to be perfect. And you don't even have to know where you're going. Like half the time, I don't even know what's next, but I know what I'm doing now. The next will come. Don't worry about the next. Just do what you want to do today. If you don't do it today, then you're not going to do it tomorrow and you're not going to get started. Just get started. That's it.
Oh, y'all,
Just
awesome.
do it.
Shantae, if I could just add, it's also, it's the big things and it's the little things. So everybody watching this is now an advocate, because what the expectation is now you have the information. So even if you share a little drop, if you share a little bite, if you forward if you share the YouTube video, if you share the Facebook link, you are doing that advocacy. That's what it looks like. It's getting the message out.
I love it.
I want to add too that, Shantae, I know you said that you attended the AIDS Watch Summit. And so that's going to be taking place very soon. Hopefully we can drop that in the comment box. And this is an opportunity that if you want some more of those skills, there's a virtual conference that you can attend, I believe, for no charge. If I'm wrong, and you can see what it's like to really advocate for people who are living with and impacted by HIV. So if you go to that link that's in the comment box, there's some opportunities for you to grow, but then also there are opportunities on the local and the state level where you can learn more about community advocacy as well.
And Trina, I'm glad that you mentioned that about AIDS Watch. I love AIDS Watch. AIDS Watch is where it got started. And like Deidre mentioned, I moved to the area and I Googled. I didn't see nothing where I resided before. And I came here and I just Googled HIV and advocacy, and that came up. Another thing that I would like to chime in at this point is, be a part of the conversation. As we mentioned, there's your local Ryan White Planning Commission. And if you are a person that's living with HIV, you can be a part of that discussion. And what that commission does is they pretty much can allocate where the funds come in. So if you're saying that you're not getting, the dental access that you need, or the medical care, or the emergency assistance that you need in your particular area, well, guess what? You can be a part of the Ryan White Commission, and, you can start making those decisions. Lots of us, we just sit here, but no, we deserve to be at the table. There are some tables that have been preserved for us. So hopefully I can see you there. We have one more question. And I think that one of the questions that came up was, what does it mean? I kind of talked about it just briefly with my book, but what does it mean if a partner tells me they're undetectable? So I'm gonna let one of you guys take that. What does it mean if a partner tells you that you're undetectable? All right, Kanaya. I was hoping you took that.
Well, undetectable means that long as you stay undetectable, you cannot transmit HIV to your partner. It's a whole campaign through the CDC that I'm sure a lot of people have heard about. That I love to talk about. Is U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. That means that if you stay on your medication, you will remain undetectable, and that you will not be able to pass HIV to your partner as long as you stay on your medication. So that's when PrEP comes into play. We talked about PrEP earlier. You're undetectable, your partner stays on PrEP, then you should be good.
Thank you, Kanaya. And so once again, as she mentioned, U equals U, and you can we put it here, undetectable equals untransmittable. And you can see the information as well on CDC. And that's one of the ways that I kind of disclose, to be honest. I show someone my labs and they're like, what is this? And they see HIV and it starts the conversation. I'm like, yeah, I don't have something like, bad credit where I can make a couple of payments and it's going to change. Like, this is what it is. And so it starts that conversation. And then I also show them the link for the CDC undetectable equals untransmittable. So as long as we keep our viral load suppressed or to an undetectable state, then it's been proven that we're unable to transmit HIV to someone else. So that's what that means. So I'm excited for U equals U, and there's more information about that in my book as well. And also we have some more helpful information here, and we're actually going to see if there's any more questions before we move forward. I know we're coming to the end of our program, but I wanted to make sure, is there any additional questions before we move forward? Ladies, did you have anything that you want to say? Any presenters real quick?
I always have something to say, Shantae. I really just have one more thing to say. If you don't know your status, it's so important that you get tested, please. That is the biggest thing right now. If we can identify everybody that is HIV positive and get them on treatment, get them undetectable, we can end the epidemic. And it's affecting the Black community at a disproportionate rate. So we need everybody on this call, if you don't know your status, you need to make it your business to get somewhere to know your status.
It's important to know your status. Thank you, Deidre.
And I also think that, sorry, Shantae, that we all have a status, whether it's positive or negative, we all have a role to play in ending this HIV epidemic, right? This is where we're going. This is what the language is saying. And so it's also the importance of the evolution of HIV treatment and prevention medications, right? So we're starting in the early 80s, late 70s with people taking 30 pills a day to now people can take one pill once a day with or without treatment. And that's across the prevention and the care continuum. And it's the same thing as we're talking about U equals U and undetectable equals untransmittable. This is a status that you have as long as you going to see your doctor, that you're taking your medications, right? So I think that's the important part that we really have to get across to community, is that you have to have that relationship with your provider. You have to take your medications and you have to know what your labs look like, right? So we say, viral load and CD4 counts. One should be high, one should be low. That's what keeps us to being staying alive, right? So if you remember that story from the 70s, remember that song from the 70s and the 80s, staying alive, we really need to know what our numbers look like and how important that is to the vitality of our lives.
Thank you, Trina, for that, for the staying alive song. My mom went back to that. So thank you for bringing me that. And look, you guys, I know that we've covered a lot. We've given you a lot of information. And that's one of the things that we said we was going to do. We was going to talk about ways that we can prevent HIV. We was going to talk about testing. We said that we were going to talk about ways that you can possibly disclose to your family and even to people that you're in relationships with. Look, we opened up some gifts with some condoms and some lube, even had some mints in there, you guys, and some chapstick and some mirrors so we can see our reflection. But you know what? This is where I'm probably going to leave you all. I'm not really leaving, but I'm going to turn it over to our final two presenters because we unpacked a lot. And I want to make sure that we leave in a good space, because sometimes as women, we take on a whole lot because we're resilient. And if anyone doesn't know about that resilience is that bounce back power. We're resilient, but we also need to make sure that we manage it well. So at this point, I just want to say thank you all for being such great participants. I'm ready to do this again. Are you guys ready to do this again? Can you put that in the comments? And I'm going to go ahead at this point and turn this over to Joy so she could just make sure we're in a good place as we just unravel the whole lot here.
I just want to say thank you for everyone who's shown up tonight. This was not small. The presenters were amazing. So thank you. I'm so grateful to be here and share stage with everyone. So as we come to a close, right, we talked about a lot of things. We talked about stigma. We talked about disclosures. We talked about advocacy and allyship, right? We talked about what does it just mean to be a woman? And so with all of that, I really want us to go back kind of the way we began, because again, if we was all inside Busboys and Poets like we were for the previous 2 years, you would have ended with hugging somebody, probably multiple people on the way out. So I want to invite you again to take your right hand and put it on your right shoulder, and your left hand and put it on your left shoulder. And I want you to squeeze. And as you are squeezing yourself, I want you to tell yourself that I am powerful. And I want you to feel that power inside the hug that you are giving yourself. And then I want you to tell yourself that I am worthy. Because you are. You are worthy. You chose you. You chose to be here. You chose health. You chose staying alive. Well, you could have all kinds of different types of choices. And so I want you to keep squeezing and say, I am worthy. And the very last piece that I like to tell everybody is that you are whole. That nothing has taken nothing away from you. Everything that you have came in this world with, you still have. That whole thing that matter cannot be created or destroyed tells me that I am whole. The only thing that might be holy is my mind, and even that is still holy. And so I just want you to squeeze and just give yourself a moment to just breathe inside of it. And you repeat to yourself that I am powerful, that I am worthy, and I am whole. And do it 2 more times. I am powerful, I am worthy, and I am whole. And one last time, I am powerful, I am worthy, and I am whole. Take a deep breath and blow it across the room. I thank you for sharing space with me this evening, sharing space with us, sharing space in the name of Mary Bowman. And ain't I a woman?
Thank you so much, Joy. And we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Miss Ann. She joined us during our Q&A section, and she actually answered a couple of questions for us so eloquently. But we're going to go ahead and ask her to join us if she's available. But before we do so, I just want to let you know that the Heart to Hand information is showing up at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to visit us. Take a look at our Facebook group. Take a look at our IG. We got some trivias on there. You guys can win some gift cards. But just stay tuned and stay plugged in, because we're definitely here for you. So Miss Ann, come and join us.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight as we honor the women that got us here. I honor the women that brought us through this evening. I honor all the dandelions that have come before us and those that we are currently supporting. Mary really created this vessel, as you've heard throughout the evening, so that we can continue to pour into each other, so that we can renew, we can reflect, we can recharge. And one of the other main tenets of her work was just to bring the humanness to it. So as we close tonight, we do want to share one last piece of her work, a poem entitled Honest. And just remember, as you listen to this poem and you hear the humanness and you hear the work that we're doing, understand that to know her and to know of her work, and now you all do, is to honor her, and it is to do the work. So again, I call on you tonight. You all are now the advocates, and so I call on you to continue to bring the message forward. So we're going to close tonight with Mary's poem, Honest. And please, our information is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So please reach out and contact us if you have any questions, any concerns, need support, however we can help. We're here.
Good. All right. So make some noise if you ever been to a poetry reading before. Right. Good. So you know this is not the part where you look at me with a dead stare and just waiting for me to entertain you. It's not that type of show. I like energy. So if you hear something in my poem that you like, that tickles your fancy or anything, you are allowed to make noise while I do my poem because I practice. I am a professional poet, so I will not mess this up for you, I promise. So my name is Mary Bowman. I am 26. Jesus. 26 years old, and I was born HIV positive, and a lot of the things that I do in my life is because of that, and also in tribute to my biological mother who passed away in 1992 from complications with AIDS. More stuff about what I do. I do poetry, of course. I sing. I have an album on iTunes and Google Play. I am an advocate for people living with HIV, if that wasn't obvious enough. I am also working currently at the Women's Collective, which is in DC. It's an organization for women, ran by women, living with and at risk for HIV and AIDS. I am a policy and advocacy associate there. Yeah, that's clappable. So yeah, if you like me, please follow me. I see a rather young crowd here, so I'm sure you're on social media. Yes. All right. And most of you probably just Facebook, but you know, if you do Instagram, Twitter, all of that, I'm on there as well at Just Mary Bowman. See some people, I need to give you time to write that down or whatever. See some people writing, getting out your phones. JustMaryBowman. That was great, right? All right, let me get into this poem. If you would like to support my art, I do have CDs available, physical copies of my projects, and I also have sign-up sheet, order forms for my book, Lotus. It's a book which this poem is actually inside of. So if you would like to pre-order a book, my book, Lotus, please come see me. Hug me, say hi. I like people, so talk to me or something. All right, this is called The Honest Poem. Honesty is sometimes the hardest thing to bring to the table when you're feeding souls who are sometimes unable to decipher real life. And sometimes I'm scared to admit that I still tend to miss doses. Because even though I write about it, I don't like to focus on the realities of living with HIV. My therapist asked me what having HIV means to me, and I promised to never bring this part into my poetry, but I constantly feel like I'm betraying my people. I can hear them scream, we're supposed to be equal, but you keep cheating, peeking through the peephole, ignoring the elephant knocking at your door, 26 years old, and that spot is still so sore. So here's my honest poem. Yes, sometimes I ignore my disease. But please understand that I still have a feeling of inadequacy, a fear of abandonment, and I still be feeling like people will look at me differently. And sometimes I feel like people only enjoy my poetry because they feel sorry for me, so I cope through a missed dose. Maybe if I don't take this pill, then I can be as normal as I want to be. I'm living a facade, but in reality, I can't join the army. And I don't really want to go. But the fact that they prohibited me makes me feel like I will never be all that I can be. So I'm just camouflaged, draped in insecure fatigues, Immune system fighting too hard. I'm always fatigued. And this chick in the mirror always be looking at me like I owe her something better. She's bitter, hurt, because the mother she's never known used to be her babysitter. And she just wants to know that if nobody else gets her, if nobody else in this world understands, and it should be me, and I do, but it still hurts. Pain still lurks in dark corners of poetry venues, threatening to expose the misuse of thumbs dancing across my BlackBerry. And this is what's scary. I don't even care anymore. The allure of freedom is far more attractive than being an activist who is inactive in the pursuit of attaining an undetectable viral load. So, if pain chooses to expose the fact that I sometimes spit HIV-infused poems and go home and tell my T cells lies that they're doing well without a pill, then so shall it be. Because there is a big difference between HIV having you and having HIV. Honesty. Sometimes the hardest thing to bring to the table when you're feeding souls who are sometimes unable to decipher real life, I just pray that when that chick in the mirror hears this, she will accept it as my attempt to give her something better. Because she deserves something better. And if anyone in the world gets her, it's me and the other millions of dandelions born in the world with HIV who wish they even had a pearl to cast before swine, but only have a plus sign that follow 3 letters as heavy as the cross of the man crucified. And I know how this sounds. But Isaiah and Peter lied about the stripes for which we are all supposed to be healed. At least that's how it feels when on one hand they tell me that Jesus is real, and on the other hand they tell me that there isn't a cure. But I'm sure there's a perfectly good explanation. God, just let me know if I'm patiently waiting on a healing that is never meant for me. Let me know if HIV will never be a memory, but always a current event, slowly killing me while I continue to write. Letting dandelions in this world know they aren't alone in this life. Thank you all for your time. Thank you all so much. Are you standing? Thank you. Hi. Thank you all so much. If you want to follow me, remember I'm at Just Mary Bowman everywhere. YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, everything. Come on at me. Thank you so much.
Ashe, and so it is. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate you, and we're here. Have a great evening.